Right, so let's start. So we are going to start with question 1, and Martin's going to cue some stuff up, so I'll just talk for a little bit. Question 1 is you can get 4 points for. Yeah, already, Martin? Yeah, cool, lovely. So question 1, who are the big 4? We're talking pattern companies here. There's 4 companies that are referred to as the big 4, as opposed to all of the many other little pattern companies out there. So who are they?
Iron Man, the Hulk.
Iron Man,
Thor,
the Hulk, Thor, and Superman.
Captain Hammer.
Captain Hammer. That's Thor.
No, I said Thor.
Captain Hammer, surely Captain Hammer is Thor.
No, Captain Hammer's Nathan Fillion.
Oh, yeah, he is. Oh my God, I've only just gotten that's a rip-off. Anyway, so yeah, question 1 for 4 points. Who are the big 4? So there's 4 answers to this, so name as many as you can. And hopefully score big. I feel like I should have a really big, like, fluffy toy that people can win in the background. It's not going to happen, is it? So that was question 1. Who are the big 4? Question 2, which is 1 point. Originally, sewing patterns weren't printed with any information on them as they are today. Is that true or false? So back in the day, did they print stuff on there to help you figure out what you were sewing, or did they just give you blank bits of shaped tissue paper? So that was question 2. Originally, sewing patterns weren't printed with any information on them as they are today. True or false?
I thought you were going to say sewing patterns were printed with cat guts or something.
No, there's no gross questions this week. I could get into a whole thing of stuff like that. It's fascinating. So question 3, which is 1 point again. Butterick are the earliest pattern paper company still in production. Is that true or false? So Butterick, which I don't actually use Butterick that much, but are they the earliest pattern paper company still in production? They do some good vintage patterns these days, like repro patterns. But yeah, I haven't used one of those in a while. Burda, I like Burda patterns at the moment. They do good menswear patterns, Burda. So that was question 3 for 1 point. Butterick are the earliest pattern paper company still in production, true or false? Question 4 for 1 point. When was McCall's founded? Was it A, 1860, B, 1870, C, 1880, or D, 1890? Surprised as to how old some of these companies were. So McCall's, when was it founded? 1860, 1870, 1880, or 1890? So question 5 for 1 point. Which pattern company began in 1899 as a spin-off of a popular magazine? It's very technical back there, Martin. Mm-hmm. Oh, Perd's on the move. Doing a stretch, buggering off. Fair dues. Fair dues when you're a cat. So, question 5 for 1 point was which pattern company began in 1899 as a spin-off of a popular magazine? Man, I used to collect those magazines. The Italian version of them is excellent these days. Oh, hint. So moving on, question 6 for 1 point. When did Simplicity stop producing unprinted patterns? Was it 1926, 1936, 1946, or 1956? So Simplicity, when did they stop producing unprinted patterns? A, 1926, B, 1936, C, 1946, or D, 1956? Frantically checking I've written down the answers to some of these because they're a bit tongue-twistery. I like Simplicity patterns as well, but like as the name implies, they're not simple though. I always think that's a misnomer because their instructions are awful. There you go, Simplicity. Instructions, pants, patterns, good. So question 7, what is the Selvedge? Apart from a really good magazine. that's too expensive to buy. So question 7 for 1 point. What is the selvage? I'm trying hard to like slow down on these because they're like quite quick questions. So question 8 for 1 point. How can you often tell the right or wrong side of the fabric by looking at the selvage? I like this trick. Although to be fair, the right or wrong side is whatever you want it to be, right? So question 8 for 1 point was, how can you often tell the right or wrong side of the fabric by looking at the selvage?
Is it cheating to, if someone asks what is an unprinted pattern?
No, because that was one of the questions. Keep up, people. Oh dear, I am still a bit mean, clearly. Cool, right, so question 9 for 1 point. What is the bias of the fabric? So when someone says, I'm cutting on the bias, what does that mean?
What you have against people who don't know what an unprinted pattern is.
I'm biased towards anyone. Do you know, I didn't know that I knew this much about sewing. I wouldn't have said that I did before I started out. Well, you know, I am a self-confessed nerd of sewing, I suppose. So question 9 for 1 point was, what is the bias of the fabric? So when you're cutting on the bias, what is that? What are you doing? I did get a bit inspired by this week's Sewing Bee. Is anyone watching Sewing Bee? It's really good. Although this week's was Children's Week, so I'm not on board with Children's Week. It's boring. So question 10 for 1 point. What is the warp? So we're talking fabric again. What is the warp of the fabric? W-A-R-P. Like warp speed, but with fabric. So question 10 for 1 point was, what is the warp of the fabric? And question 11 for 1 point, what is a grainline? Apart from a good pattern company, actually. That's the name of a pattern company these days.
Is it one of the big four?
It's not one of the big four. That's why I felt happy saying it. It's a good independent, really good independent pattern company, actually, Grainline. They've been going for a few years now. So question 11 for 1 point, what is a grainline? And now we've got some pictures. Yay! I like doing picture rounds. So, question 12 for 1 point, what stitch is this? Now the top is the stitch and then the bottom is the fancy version of the stitch, which I've never done because life is too short. It's one of my favourite stitches. Oh God, I'm literally going into the Geek Hall of Fame right now, aren't I, in Sewing Land?
I wish.
So what stitch is that? For 1 point, question 12. And then question 13 for 1 point. What stitch is this? Well, this one's a bit more oblique, isn't it? Look at that. Managed to find some quite nice illustrations, actually, of these, I have to say. So question 13, what stitch is this? I feel like this needs one of those, like, jingles. Were we saying a few weeks ago we needed a jingle for? I can't remember. This one, what stitch is this? So that was question 13. Question 14, another, what stitch is this? This is cool. I like this illustration. Apart from, in my hands, trying to follow this illustration. Like, I know how to do this stitch, but trying to follow this illustration would just end up with a lot of knots, I think, on my sewing. So that was question 14. What stitch is this? Looks like a nightmare land of stitching. But it's fun, I promise. And then the last one, question 15. These are all for 1 point. What stitch is this? This is the last one. This one's a fancy illustration because it's got colour. Don't know if you guys can hear Perd in the background whinging at us. Nothing's wrong with him. Probably wants treats. He always wants treats. So that was question 15. What stitch is this? 1 point. It's very exciting. We can run through those again quickly in a sec, guys. When I run through the questions again, we'll show those pictures just so you can have another look. I think Perd wants to be fed, but it's not his dinner time yet. He does this most nights. So finally, we've got 4 questions in a row, and they're picture questions again. So Martin will just put up the questions with the pictures as we roll. It's all 1 point each, and they're all, if you can guess what pattern company designed which pattern. So they're all big 4 patterns companies. So hopefully you got the question at the beginning, but they're really cool because like some of them are Edwardian. Actually, I found some really cool pictures of a sort of old school original Edwardian and 20s patterns. So yeah, question 16 is what pattern company produced this design, and then we'll just carry on. It's quite a fancy Edwardian girl, I think, in that one. Do you reckon that's enough time, or should I leave them up for a little bit longer?
Give them another moment.
Yeah. I just love the illustrations on these. They're so cool. I really think that's one of the things that pattern companies these days get really wrong. They make the sample out of these awful fabrics, checks and crazy patterns and things like that, and you can't really see what you're making, whereas back in the day they did these beautiful illustrations that you could just see what you were going to make. Anyway, sigh. So question 17, what pattern company produced this design? She's fancy. Where do you think she's going, Martin? She's going to go for a cocktail somewhere?
I think she's going to San Francisco.
She's going to San Francisco, yeah? She's going to walk the bay. Maybe she's visiting a loved one abroad.
She is abroad.
She is abroad. I like that one. I like the colour of the skirt. I think that's beautiful. But anyway, yeah, which pattern company produced this design for 1 point? Martin's looking really closely at it. So, question 18 for 1 point is another, what pattern company produced this? And this one is stunning, actually. I genuinely think I might try and hunt this pattern down. It's beautiful. Maybe I'll just print that out and frame it because it's just such a lovely illustration. Because going through vintage patterns, you sort of realise, I don't know, modern patterns are quite similar these days, aren't they? I just love that. I think that's beautiful. So question 19 for 1 point, which is the last question because I cocked up. Which pattern company produced this design? And this is like, totally my mum's era. Good old flares and mustard yellowness. I'd say that if you've used some of the big 4 pattern companies, some of these will be probably a little bit obvious because there's definitely some pattern companies that produce certain styles a bit more and illustrate a strange way. Definitely in their wheelhouse. So yeah, so that's the end of the questions, guys. So I'll give you sort of a couple of minutes just to check back over, and then I'll read through everything again so you can hear them again. I have no idea. What does Perd want, do you reckon? I should have brought treats in here he wants stardom. Should have brought treats in here to bribe him because, you know, that's what you do with cats and kids. So yeah, this one was all about patterns mainly, wasn't it, really? I didn't struggle to find, but if anyone's got any subjects they want questions about, do shout out again because I'd be very interested to to hear what everyone, if anyone thinks they've got a good knowledge in a certain area, and thinks they'll crush, like, I don't know, prints or, I don't know, sewing terminology, who knows. Let me know, because I can easily write some questions on certain subjects. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. Quite like doing the picture questions, because they're it's fun to look through old pictures of stuff. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick rundown of all of the questions again, just super quick, so you guys can hear them again in case you missed one or are reconsidering your options now you've heard the whole quiz. So this is week 3, question 1. Who are the big 4? So you can get 4 points for that whole question. Question 2, originally sewing patterns weren't printed with any information on them as they are today. Is that true or false? That was for 1 point. So question 3, again for 1 point. Butterick are the earliest pattern paper company still in production. Is that true or false? So I have no idea if Perd's being picked up right now. So question 4 for 1 point. When was McCall's pattern company founded? Was it 1860, 1870, 1880 or 1890? Either one of those is pretty early on, aren't they? He's gone behind you. Martin's got purred cam. I'm not even joking right now, guys. Martin has a purred cam. There you go, purred cam. Da-na-na-na-na. So that's who. If you can hear whinging, that's who's whinging. Pussycat. Oh, look at him. Anyway, so question 5 for 1 point. Which pattern company began in 1899 as a spin-off of a popular magazine? Question 6 for 1 point. When did Simplicity stop producing unprinted patterns? Was it 1926, 1936, 1946 or 1956? So question 7 for 1 point. What is the selvedge? Question 8 for 1 point. How can you often tell the right or wrong side of the fabric by looking at the selvedge? Question 9 for 1 point. What is the bias of the fabrics when you're cutting on the bias? What does that mean? And question 10 for 1 point. What is the warp of the fabric? Like what does that mean? The warp. Question 11 for 1 point. What is a grain line? Do you know, when I'm teaching sewing, grain lines is one of the only things I really bang on about. Grainline. Question 12 for 1 point. What stitch is this? And then 13 for 1 point. What stitch is this? Martin's putting them up again super quick for you. Question 14. What stitch is this? This is the Nightmare Snaggletooth one. I promise it's a good stitch. Question 15. What stitch is this? And then super quick, we're going to run through all of the pattern envelopes again to see which pattern company produced which design. So the first one was this Edwardian number. Little girl in her Edwardian dress, looking super smart. And then the second one was the San Francisco lady. Again, looking very smart. And then the third one, my favourite, is this. I think it's the 20s actually. This one, really old. And then the last one was these funky duo from the 70s in their flower powerness. 70s, 60s, one of them. So yeah, that was the quiz, guys. So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to double check over and I'll read out some answers. Does anyone need any help?
No.
No? Ooh. well-behaved crew in tonight. That's what I like. Do you know what? It's really nice outside and it's blue skies and it's beautiful, but it is really, really freaking cold. I keep looking out of the window and going, oh, it's beautiful. And then go, I'm not going out there. It's really cold and windy. Went to the post office earlier. That wasn't, I'm not going to repeat that again. It's too cold. Stay indoors. So I don't know if anyone else is making scrubs and things like that out there. I've been making scrubs and masks all week. I wrote down my count. We're between 300 and 400 sets of scrubs and just over 700 masks, I think, for everyone that's been helping me, and I've been making them as well. Oh, we've raised £950 as well to help us make them, which I was pretty chuffed with, actually. Just to help. I started a GoFundMe because it was easier to try to get some help with like all of the logistics of it. I think people don't realise that how much it is to like get fabric shipped to you and stuff. So that was really good. But yeah, so far it's managed to facilitate just over 300 sets of scrubs and just over 700 masks. Oh, and there's a couple of headbands in there as well for various doctors.
Picture 14 again.
Picture 14. Which one is 14? That one.
Well, we can't say because
it's the snaggletooth one. It's that one, yeah. I had a really obvious picture for this and it gave it away, so I took it away because I'm mean.
Lisa Nielsen has just finished her 19th pair of scrubs.
Lisa Nielsen, you win. Oh, I tell you what, Lisa Nielsen, take an extra point. Oh, I'm so mean. Take yourself an extra point for, what's that, 19 sets? That's amazing. They are brutal to make, Lisa Nielsen. I'm finding them pretty hard work, and I normally make bulk of costumes, so that's coming from me. But scrubs, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the hefting of the fabric or anything, because the fabric gets quite heavy after all, doesn't it? But 19 is nothing to be shouted at. That's amazing.
Serena has made her third set.
Serena, you got another one, Serena. Well done. I liked your other two. I liked the colour of them. We just got black ones and then navy ones, and then there were some purple ones in there. But I liked yours because they were patterned. That was awesome.
Miriam's been making masks in San Francisco.
Miriam in San Francisco has been making masks. Yes. Oh, well done. Well done. I like masks. They're quick. They make me feel like I've won. A set of scrubs takes about 3.5 to 4 hours a set, whereas a mask, 15 minutes. Boom! Just feel like you've won for the day, don't you? Also, choosing all the different fabric, I really like doing that, using all sorts of different fabric that I've been hoarding for decades, some of it. And to use it now is really nice because I don't need this fabric. No one needs this fabric. So well done, everyone out there. If you've made masks or scrub this week, so you can all have just 1 extra point. I don't go crazy. So I'm going to do some answers now. I'm sure you're all on the edge of your seat. So question 1, answer for 4 points. So if you named all 4, you got 4 points. Who are the big 4? They are Butterick, McCall's, Simplicity and Vogue. And Vogue were like one of the last ones to join the game. I had no idea. But yeah, Butterick, McCall's, Simplicity and Vogue. There was someone else before that, but like they didn't last very long. Butterick got in there first, I think. Can't remember now. Butterick or McCall's. Anyway, so number 2 for 1 point. Originally, sewing patterns weren't printed with any information on them as they are today. Is that true or false? Now, this is just me. I don't know if any of you saw, don't think it was last season of Sewing Bit. I think it was the season before. They gave them, Perd's about to knock something off. It's going to go clang. They gave them some of these. It's actually true. So you got these sheets just cut out in a bodice shape of blank tissue paper, and it had a couple of dots on it to like tell you which was the top and which bit to join to a sleeve. But they were entirely blank. They had no writing on them at all. So yeah, originally sewing patterns weren't printed with any information on them as they are today. True or false? That is true, which is just so mean. And apparently you could buy partially made up ones. So they'd partially make up this tissue sewing pattern and send it out to give you a hope in hell of knowing how to make it up. It's utterly brilliant. So yeah, if you got that it was true, 1 point. So question 3. Butterick are the earliest pattern paper company still in production. Is that true or false? And that is true. Buttrick are the earliest one going. It was Mr. Buttrick, but he watched his wife cut out. I think she was copying a pattern, and she cut it out of newspaper. And he went, "Hang on a minute, there's something in that," and started producing them. It was a family affair. They used to fold them in their front room and all sorts. So yeah, Buttrick are the earliest pattern paper company still in production. Question 4 for 1 point. When was McCall's founded? So I gave you 1860, 1870, 1880 or 1890, and they were founded in 1870. I think it was nearly 10 years after Buttrick were founded. There were 63, I think. So McCall's were founded B, 1870. So question 5 for 1 point. Which pattern company began in 1899 as a spin-off of a popular magazine? And that was Vogue. They had the magazine and they thought they'd get in on the game, and they're still in on the game.
I got that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yay! 1 point.
Hooray.
You made no scrubs. Taking it back. So yeah, Vogue started in 1899, question 5. But yeah, like quite when you sort of hear about McCall's being founded in 1870, I sort of assumed Vogue were quite early, but no, they're a bit later. So question 6 for 1 point. When did Simplicity stop producing unprinted patterns? So unprinted patterns are the ones that just came blank. When did they stop producing them? Was it 1926, 1936, 1946 or 1956? It was C, 1946, which I just think is mean. I think the minute they could print on patterns, they should just have printed on patterns. I've got some of the old school ones. They're from the 20s, actually, 20s and 40s. I've got patterns upstairs that are blank. And they're a scary prospect because there's just no information on them. So yeah, Simplicity stopped producing unprinted patterns in 1946. Wonder why then? Who knows? So question 7 for 1 point. What is the selvedge? And the selvedge is the woven edge of the fabric. It's often got some printing on it if you're buying cotton. But it's the woven edge of the fabric, the long edge of the fabric. If you've got anything like that, give yourself a point. Question 8. How can you often tell the right or wrong side of the fabric by looking at the selvedge? Now, this is a trick. I don't know that many people know this, but it's a really cool trick. And I hope that all of you knew it because it's amazing. So when you look down the side of the selvedge, often there are holes in it where it's come off the loom. And if the holes, if it's pointing up at you, that is the right side. So yeah, if you feel, you can feel the holes like raised bumps, that is the right side of the fabric. But as I said earlier, any side is the right side if you like it enough. But yeah, so question 8, how can you often tell the right or wrong side of the fabric by looking at the selvedge? It was because the holes are up, you can see which way it came off the loom. Question 9 for 1 point. What is the bias of the fabric? So when you cut on the bias, what does it mean? And that is, well, it's 45, you cut 45 at a 45 degree angle from the warp or the weft. So you're cutting crossways. It's often the stretchy way of the fabric. So if you've got anything like that, score yourself 1 point. Un point. For like the Eurovision Song Contest. Did I get cancelled this year, the Eurovision Song Contest?
I hope so.
Oh my God.
At least something can come out.
Yeah, but it might, if we kept it on, it might kill off all the people that like Eurovision Song Contest.
And that would be bad.
Oh, would it? My dad would be devastated if it's cancelled. Actually, it's round about now that it's supposed to be held, isn't it, Eurovision? Are we allowed in anymore?
Yeah.
So go home, Britain. Anyway, so the bias of the fabric, question 9, 1 point, 45 degrees from the warp or the weft. Question 10, what is the warp? So this was 1 point. So the warp is parallel to the selvedge. It's the long thread that goes all the way down. And I figured why you guys might know this is it's like a stronger thread. The weft, which goes across, is slightly weaker. So that's why we cut patterns out going down the fabric often. But the warp, the warp thread runs parallel to the selvedge. So yeah. That's why, I don't know, my mum used to tell me not to cut crossways. Don't cut crossways, Laura. It will, your garment will fall apart quicker than anything, and it is slightly stronger going down. And I don't know why, but I know that it is. So question 11 for 1 point. What is a grain line? And this is to do a little bit with the warp as well. The grain line is the direction of the yarn or the weave. So you've got this quite directional weave, and you have to cut your grain line on it so that your garment doesn't twist and go weird. So it refers to the direction of the yarns along the warp thread, which is the lengthwise yarn. So if you've got any of that garbled description, give yourself a point. But it is also what we cut on. So the grain lines on a pattern, they have to run parallel to the selvage 99% of the time. So any of that, score yourself a point. So stitches. I can't believe I've got a favourite hand stitch. It's pathetic, isn't it? So question 12 for 1 point. What stitch is this? The first one, question 12, was herringbone stitch. So it's a herringbone stitch, and I use it for hems and things like that. And also you can use it for sewing seams down so that they run nice and they mould against the body quite nicely. You can float boning as well using it. It's a bloody brilliant stitch, herringbone. Uses a lot of thread though. You find yourself threading your needle loads. Anyway, so question 13 for 1 point. What stitch is this? And it's just a back stitch. Really easy back stitch. Hate doing it though. Not very good at back stitch. Back stitch and chain stitch are my nemesis. I'm not very good at them. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So question 14, what stitch is this? The snaggletooth one. It's a buttonhole stitch, which is amazing. It's really good if you've ever done handmade buttonholes, or if you've ever made a coat that maybe asked you to make your buttonholes by hand. It's beautiful. You can do eyelets with it as well, and it's just a really pleasing stitch to do. It's just neat and lovely. So yeah, 14 was a buttonhole stitch, and then 15, what stitch is this? And it's just a slip stitch, really basic slip stitch. Often found when you're slip stitching down facings or hems, things like that. So you use slip stitch a lot. I am aggressively crap at slip stitch. Aggressively crap at it. You just can see them all over the shop. So finally, you've got the pattern questions. So I've just done one answer sheet for this. So you had 4 questions. So 16, 17, 18 and 19 were all what pattern company produced this design. So here are the answers. Ta-da! So the first one was McCall's with that beautiful Edwardian gown. The second one was Vogue. She's the San Francisco lady. And then the third one, which is my favourite, was Butterick. I think that's just a stunning pattern. And then the fourth one was Simplicity. And I thought that, I don't know, I thought that Vogue did very much look like Vogue. And Simplicity definitely do that weird chunky style of illustration still. So I hoped that you'd get it.
Arnold.
Hello, Rebecca Arnold. Why am I saying hello to Rebecca Arnold?
She said hi.
Hello, hello, Rebecca Arnold. I like this, referring to people by their first and second name. So anyway, that was it. So it went McCall's, Vogue, Butterick, Simplicity were the answers to the pattern envelope challenge.
Sorry, Rebecca Arnold.
Why?
She just turned up.
No, she just turned up. Rebecca Arnold, rewind. Start from the beginning. This is going to be loads of spoilers. So yeah, as I said, that was this is out of 22 points today, I think. Does that make sense? 19, 20, 21. I made 23. It's 23 points. Ignore me. It is 23 points.
Sugo says hi.
Sue Goff. Sugo. You've never seen that written down, have you? Hello, it's my Auntie Sue, who probably is more responsible for my sewing than she knows. All my aunts sewed. I've got loads of aunts, they all sew.
Mary Hammett Farmer only got 16, messed up the patterns.
Ah,
Serena
16 is
Cooper
good.
Got 17.
17!
So she can lord it over Mary.
17's good, Serena. Because it's only out of 23, so you only got 6 wrong. Wrong.
Chaz Gifford James got 20! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! And so on and so forth.
Who was that? Chaz?
Chaz Gifford James.
Wow, amazing, 20.
Yeah.
Oh, I worked so hard to make these a bit easier, guys. I'm actually quite,
Lisa Nielsen got 13.
Lisa Nielsen with 13, well done. Is Lisa Nielsen needing an extra point? I hope you added your extra point in for scrubs making, Lisa Nielsen.
Miriam in San Francisco got 18. She screwed up 2 of the patterns. Can't believe she got warp and welt mixed up.
Oh, that's why I asked it though, because warp and weft, you always... And then they blither on about saying weft is left and da-da-da-da, and I'm like, that makes no sense either, so... but I might remember the... Wait, no, I've forgotten already. Yeah, warp, Selvedge, I don't know. I might remember it from in future. But when do you use that, really? I'm impressed that you sort of knew what it was.
Andy got 19. This is off to make more masks.
Andy,
Yeah.
you need an extra point if you're making masks.
Yeah.
That's 20 for Andy. Woo! Oh, amazing, guys. I'm so pleased you've scored a little bit more. I don't think you'd still be with me if you were still scoring 6. That first week was dire. Maybe I should bring the first week back in like 6 weeks' time and see if anyone's...
Serena got Butterick and McCall's the wrong way round.
Oh, it's easy done though, Butterick and McCall's though, isn't it? I'm impressed anyone got those though.
Are they called McCall's so they can sell them in their corner shops?
No, it's all surnames, apart from Vogue, Butterick, McCall's, or Simplicity. I don't know where Simplicity get their names. Do you know, there's not much online about the history of like where the patterns come from and stuff. It's a bit upsetting actually.
A gap in the market.
Well, I just really thought I'd find some websites doing deep dives into pattern history, and no, there's not much about it.
Sign up to our newsletter if you want to join our Kickstarter for the history of patterns.
the driest blog about history of patterns. But it made me want to sort of find out some more about like how they got started and stuff. Because the McCall's, the Butterick history where they sort of he saw her cutting out, that seems to be quite well known. But you sort of don't hear much about McCall's. I know McCall's was a Scottish guy, but he developed them in San Francisco. I'm pretty sure. I think I read earlier. So yeah, well done, guys. That was good scoring this week. I'm impressed. I'm going to sign off. Going to go and have some fish fingers for my supper. And some peas. I don't know. Feed a cat. Because he's getting very grumpy now. I'm pleased you all got to see him though. And yeah, we'll have to pick this up next week. I think the highest is 20 or 21, did you say? 20 out of 23. That's not bad going. So I'll keep an eye out and see if anyone beats that and let you know next week. Happy mask making, happy scrub making. Remember to stay in, stay safe, no matter what your government says. And wash your hands, or just all the time, wash your hands. Wash your hands now, I don't know. Doing a quiz, wash your hands. And yeah, I hope to see you all here next week. It was absolutely brilliant. See you soon, guys. Bye.